Welcome to the Second Coming. I'm your host, Jason Keaton. I'm here with Brother T. Brother T, how's it going today?
It's going quite well. Good morning.
Morning. So, beautiful day up here in Ohio. You got your Tennessee weather holding in there for you?
Yeah, we're just approaching winter solstice, right? Or, well, I should say fall. It's going to be fall here by the weekend. And beautiful, crisp, cooler mornings and a little bit cooler day, a lot less dew point. There's not been a lot of rain. It's been kind of droughty here in Tennessee the last couple of months. And the East Coast is getting most of the rain as of late, and so is out west and up north. But in the Mid-East here, it's been pretty dry.
Yeah. I got my flannel on for the nice fall weather. So would you like to breathe us in, Brother T?
Yeah, let's do a little prayer here and connect. Let's take a good deep breath and turn within. Thank you. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. Thank you for giving us this vibrational frequency, this energy, this attunement to the upper room here in the Second Coming this morning. Here we are joined by our guides, our teachers, the masters, and all of family and relations that are here to help us along our journey of evolution. We feel their presence with us this morning, and we ask for their guidance in our conversation and to join in with this wonderful, blissful understanding of truth, of who we are, what we are, and how we serve. It will be so, and so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful, Brother T. So, Brother T, our podcast is titled The Second Coming. And for anyone that's tuned in, they are either spiritually seeking or on the spiritual path. And my question starts out today with, we're one small ego self in a planet of billions. Can you explain to me how this planet is evolving and shifting, and the vibration of the planet is rising, and where we're coming from and where we're headed?
Yeah, let's consider that. So you really want to go deep today in this conversation. Now, the big picture, well, the only way to discuss the big picture in about 5 or 10 minutes is to take a very high flyover. And being as that you are a pilot, you understand that. You got to get up in that stratosphere level to be able to see that big picture that's been taking place over literally billions of years. And this planet has been in the process of manifesting to what it is today for that period of time. It was a purposeful creation by Spirit, and as God's children, as the first creation of Spirit. And in the Bible, it says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So what does the Word mean? Well, the Word is you, Mr. Keeler. The Word is me. The Word is all of us here. God's creation in the beginning was an extension of God, and the intention of that extension was to create more of God. We have children here to create more of us. Does that make sense? We join together in the form of creation, right? A form of creation is birth, the sexual energy being the most potent energy in the universe, because it is the foundation. It is founded on the principle of creation. And so what is our purpose here? Well, our purpose is to create more of God. It's quite simple. And now we can go back into a definition. Wait a minute. What is God? God is love. God is a vibrational field and energy of love that is creative in and of itself. God is mind, capital M, mind, right? That is capable of creating everything and all that we experience. And in that process, Jesus calls it the tiny man idea when a couple of us, let's just say God's children in the Bible, the metaphor is Adam and Eve, ate the apple. Basically, that's the symbology or the metaphor for where we ask the tiny, what would it be like to be separate from God? Because it's not possible to experience what God has not created, but we can imagine. We have the creative imagination, if you will, that God has given us. We have free will, so to speak. And so we begin to drift off into a dream, which, as we know, dreams can sometimes be glorious and sometimes be horrifying, right? But they're not real. They have no effect. But we drifted off into a dream of playing a game, so to speak, of what it would be to be separate. So the game is separation. The illusion is that we have created an experience of separation, but Spirit has taken advantage of our playful imagination and said, this is perfect. Let's create more of God. Let's use this as an opportunity to allow the soul to be expressed in form as God and to create more of God. And what is more of God? Well, of course, God is love. So that would be more love. Now, this is not the egoic imaginary love that's possessive and judgmental and conditional. This is the love of God, which is unconditional, never ever changing, and always expressing, that is, always continuing and always growing. So that's the big picture. So with that in mind, now bring the question down a little bit for me, and how much more detail do you want to know about that experiment, that purpose of being here on this planet?
Absolutely, Brother T. That was a great big picture, and something that I know people that are on the spiritual path and they've heard about this dream state. I want you to give us a little bit of clarification, because you have a little bit more enlightenment. You've studied the Course of Miracles multiple times. You've taught the Course of Miracles. You're well versed in so much information. And I think there's some misunderstanding when people say, well, this is all just a dream. Big picture, yes, it's all just a dream, but explain to us as how our physical, egoic, small self interacts with this dream, how we drop the pebble into the pond, if you will, and our vibration of how that intermixes with all the forms on this planet.
So that's a really great question, because it brings up a lot of confusion that many students of A Course in Miracles have been having to deal with. Okay, the dream isn't the physical part of it. The dream is what we believe it to be. See, with the construct of the artificial intelligence, if you will, when we come into this to incarnation in physical form, we are gifted with a thinking self. We call it our mind. We believe our mind is within our brain. It is not. All of our mind is contained within our true self, the mind of God, if you will. And so the illusory part of this experience has been taught that the whole thing is a dream. And that's incorrect perception of this reality. This is a reality. It is a dimensional construct of form that's available to those who care to venture into it from the non-physical. We raised our hand and said, I'll go. I want to see I want to experience form. It's a very low vibrational field because it's contracted energy. if you will. And when we look under the microscope, we know that everything that seems concrete to us is not. It's very much made up of atoms, and there's more space than anything else. And in the human body, there's more water than anything else. And water, when you drill down to it, is space in between the atoms and the molecules that make up what water is, H2O. So when we really drill down to see the fabric of what is, we can see that it is not at all concrete and contracted in form in the sense of concrete, like the tabletop or the body and the structure that we are exposed to here in physical form. And I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but the point is, all of that's real. This is a reality. It is one stage of consciousness, one stage of reality that absolutely is real. The illusory part, the dreamlike part, is the thinking self. When you go to sleep at night, you dream to be something that you're not. Now think about that. You have a personality, you have a body, you meet other bodies, you experience living in a world of form, a dimension of form. Now, you know it's all in your mind. It's a construct that you've made up in your mind. And when you wake up, you can literally, without much questioning, say, well, that was an illusory experience. All of it was an illusion because I dreamed it all up myself, right? But when you wake up into the, what I call the sleepwalking state of mind, we talked a little bit about that last Sunday, I believe.
Yes.
This seems to be real and very concrete. But again, the operating system of the ego, the thinking mind, when we fell off into the imaginary state of separation, that was the genesis for this experience. We set up a thinking self so that we could experience an imaginary, illusory experience of separation. Separation is the illusion. Separation is the dream. You have never been separated from your soul. Just like the sleeping self at night is not separated from the sleepwalking self today. You woke up, excuse me, and you remembered your dreams, at least for a few moments. And so you must have been there. This aspect of you must have had visibility into that sleeping imaginary experience at night of a form, a dimension of form. But when you wake up, that just kind of collapses because you can see that thinking construct of that reality was illusory. What we are trying to understand is to let go of a belief in is that we are bodies. We are not bodies. That's the dream. The egoic mind that has constructed this belief system is illusory. That's not the real me, and it's not the real you. It's an artificial intelligence, and it's called a thinking mind. And its foundation, it's a thought system, and it's complete in and of itself. But it's a thought system founded in what God is not, okay, which is separate, fearful, guilty, judgmental. Guilt and fear are the foundation for that whole construct of self. So the dreamlike state is believing that we are a self other than what God has created us to be. Now, let me say that again. The dream part of this experience is believing that we are something that God did not create us to be. And that is this thinking self. So if I tell you this, hopefully it won't shock you too much, but God did not create you to be a thinker. Well, let me think about that, right? God didn't create you to be a thinker. God created you to be the channel, the expression, the extension of the thoughts of God. And the thoughts of God are perfect because they are perfectly creative, and they are thoughts of love, always and only love. So in the admonition that Jesus has given us to be only love is to be in your natural state of beingness, because when you are joined, if you will, reintegrated with your higher self, your true self, the Holy Spirit, nothing more than your right mind, you are then at that point of of realization is the word I want to say. Realizing what an illusion it was for you to believe that you were this little thinking self. Just like when you wake up in the morning, you can see that how crazy was it that you believed yourself to be a little sleeping self all night long with this very limited dimension of reality. And I'm using this as an analogy because it's very fitting. We're still in that state here, or we can be in that state here, but we can have a lucid dream at night and realize that we were just dreaming. In other words, the sleepwalking self can wake up in the dream at night and realize that it's just a dream and play with it. And in this sleepwalking state of being awake during the day, the body self, believing ourself to be a body and listening to our own thoughts, if you will, believing these are our thoughts, this ego mind is what we are. That illusion begins to fall apart when we get joined, when we become, let me put it this way, when we remove the obstacles to the awareness of the presence and love in all things. That is truth. That is reality. It's our misperception, using our little thinking mind, of this reality is the part that's illusory, Jason. It's not this experience itself. It's our imagination and our perception of the experience, not realizing that what we're experiencing is, in fact, God in form. That never changes. It's just a different dimensional construct that God is being for us to play in, to exist in, to grow in. And it's absolutely the intention of this exercise now for us to become more Christ, more of God expressing here in form. I hope that
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I am a spiritual being having this human experience, and I'm fortunate enough to share on the same playground as you. And
Wow.
This playground is amazing. And for us that are on the spiritual path and us that are experiencing the second coming, how do we interact with those at the lower vibration? There's so many. The majority of our world is in the victim state of consciousness. How do we move through our daily spiritual lives and drop our pebbles, as you say, and spread our vibration? And we're constantly, in this victim world. Do we have a job? Do we have a responsibility to bring all these victims up and try and enlighten them?
So again, we asked this question last Sunday. Which I are we talking about? Which I is responsible? The ego? Are we talking about what the ego is responsible for, Jason, or are we talking about what the soul is responsible for?
Yeah, it's so easy to get. It's so easy for me to get confused and forget the separation, or remember that we're not. But yeah, so I'm talking about the small S self now as we go through and using our small self body, our ego body, and we're spiritually interacting with the world around us.
Well, it's really great for the ego to be seen as a guru. It gets to be in control over people. It's really not. I mean, it's really not a guru. It's actually quite insane. But in the insane asylum, there are a lot of people that believe themselves to have, God presence, immense power, blah, blah, blah. Those are idealistic constructs of an insane mind. So I like to change the language a little bit and say, rather than being a spiritual being, I'm actually a piece of God. I am God, an extension of God. Now, I'm giving voice to my soul. And when I make that statement, Jason, when I say, I know who I am in truth, word, I am word. I went back to that beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So it's been said that the Word became flesh, but now it's time for the flesh to begin to express as Word. Notice the nuance of that statement.
Yeah.
We've been asleep until now, imagining ourselves to be in a separate from each other, but your soul knows, capital K knows. You can only have knowing experiences. You can't learn knowing. You can only experience knowing. Now, I'm getting pretty deep here, and it's a little abstract, but I want to say this. When you were in the first grade, was your teacher the same teacher you had when you were a senior in high school? Was it the same teacher?
Absolutely not.
Why did you have a different teacher in the first grade?
Right? Because you rise in your experiences and your knowledge and what you're capable of learning. So you need a teacher that's able to bring that to you.
Where is she bringing it to you at? At the level, I'm going to say it this way, at the level that you can hold. In the first grade, you can't hold quantum physics in your mind. Your mind is not developed enough to maintain or even grasp that level, that vibrational field, if you will, of understanding of mathematics. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So your question at the beginning was, what do we do? 80% of the people out here are living in victim consciousness, according to Dr. David Hawkins' work. Kinesiology, back in the 90s, wrote a book called Power versus Force. Check it out. You can only hold what you can hold from where you are. So when you're in the first grade, you can only hold your experience of wisdom that's taught by the world, what they call wisdom, right? Math, the ability to read, the ability to converse, the understanding yourself, understanding relationships, being able to take care of the body, all those things. You keep going and learning, and then at a higher level, now you can hold a different level of understanding. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brother
So
T,
when we're
absolutely.
on the spiritual pathway, guess where we start? First grade. Well, kindergarten. And so when you're in the victim consciousness, what level are you at? I'm not talking down about anybody. I'm just saying from a spiritual level of consciousness, they're in the first grade. And if you are a quantum physics master and you want to teach and help people that are in victim consciousness, are they going to be able to understand your language?
Not
Probably
right.
not.
Right.
What language do you have to speak at? What level do you have to speak at? You have to speak at the level of wisdom that they can hold.
Right.
And you can teach them something, but if they can't grasp it, you haven't taught them anything. And if they can't hold it, they can't grow through it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So the question isn't what we can do for other people. The question is, when are we going to be willing to sit down and shut up and allow spirit to infill our hearts and burst forward and to be who we are expressing as here in form? And that self is your soul, the Holy Spirit, nothing more than your right mind. And it needs no learning. It needs no education. But it is an experience that we can immediately know what truth is that we can't learn. The only thing the ego self can do is to get out of the way, because it can't grasp God, just like I can't teach my dog how to drive my car. It cannot grasp how the engine works. My cat cannot understand how to drive my car. It's beyond its capacity. So we cannot teach the ego God, and we sure as hell don't want to let it be in charge of our spiritual journey. But we can help it to understand that the most important thing that it can do, and we're the ones in charge here, the Christ child, your consciousness is what's in charge here. You're making the decisions of what you give your awareness to. You have the ability to say, I'm not going to listen to thoughts of fear, the ego thoughts. First, I need to know that it's existing, and now I need to know how to, or learn how to identify it easily. And when I get a fearful thought, it's like, shut up. I'm not listening to that. That's bullshit. I'm only going to listen to my soul. Are you there? And I become present. I check in and sit down and shut up and let Spirit guide me. And eventually, as Jesus did, we become then, check it out, the Word in form, expressing as and through form. When you see me, you see the Father. That's God expressing in form, and that's called Christ. If I were to say to you, I am Christ, would you be offended? Many people would. So I don't share that with very many people, but I am Christ. When I
Absolutely.
express myself as my soul, I am Christ. I am
Absolutely.
Word, the energy of the Creator in action. That's my inheritance. That's my truth. And that's everyone that's here. That's their truth as well. When they're ready to accept it, when they're ready to graduate from the lower levels of consciousness, their soul and their guides and their loved ones and you and I can help them by holding a higher vibration of energy and consciousness that they can more easily adapt to. It's kind of like the 100th monkey principle. You might have heard of it. It's like after so many monkeys learn something, that principle becomes one with all of them, and they all already understand that new level of knowledge.
I love that. I love that. And certainly when we're talking to our spiritual community, it's easy to say, I am Christ, because we understand that we are all Christ. We are all Christ. And it's beautiful.
I think some in our community certainly are there, but this podcast goes out to the world.
Absolutely.
And I'm actually okay that not very many people see it. You know, the third book of the miracles books I've been sharing with people has been started being expressed in 2020. But today, I would venture to say probably less than 10,000 people on the entire planet have ever heard of it. And I'm not going to mention the name of it here. It'll come to you when you're ready for it. That's the way this works. When the student is ready, remember that expression, Jason? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right?
Right. And something maybe for some of us that don't feel there yet, something that I'll make a very simple example for the first time where I experienced the capital K knowing. It was after I had an experience and I was told by my soul that I was healed from cancer. About 3 months later, I was laying on the MRI machine at the Mayo Clinic, and it was the third day of getting prodded and poked and scanned, and I was laying there on this MRI machine, and I had doubts, and I had to come to the knowing, is what I experienced a dream, or did I know it to be true? And with a capital K, I knew it to be true. And my thought at the time was, I'm about done with this. And within a second, half a second, a nurse came through the door and she said, we're about done with this. And she took the IVs out, and I got out of the MRI machine and I went and had coffee, and my scans came back and I was cancer free at that time. And that was my introduction to the capital K knowing. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is absolutely. It's an amazing story. Could we say that that's a miraculous story?
I just know I am a simple spirit here experiencing this. I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for everyday miracles. I'm grateful for whatever miracle. I have no idea. I didn't ask for that. I don't know why it happened. I am just grateful that I am able to share my love with the planet.
Well, I just want to add, Jason, that absolutely that was a miracle, because a miracle is a shift of perception. Did you have a shift of perception?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's a
Life
miracle.
changing
And
forever.
guess what?
Right?
Guess what happens in the dimension of form when the creator of form has a shift of intention, a shift of perception? It shifts. It changes. Instantaneous healing. Was that not what Jesus was credited with?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because
Right.
it wasn't him healing bodies. It was his disciples, his followers, who had a shift of perception. They had a connection with spirit, and in that immediate knowing, capital K knowing, a transformation of physical form happened, which aligns with the perception of the mind. The body is always just reflecting the mind. And that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms here, right? Another rabbit hole we can go down. So we won't go there today. But
Right.
at some point, maybe we need to talk about why people get sick or don't get
Right.
sick or healed
Right.
or not healed. Because
Right.
these are all effects of the mind. This experience we're having in form is an affect of the mind, an effect of the mind. Lots of great stuff to learn, lots of great stuff to explore.
Thank you, Brother T. Thank you, Brother T, for your wisdom and your insight to gave everybody a lot to digest and think about, and probably rewind and listen to again if you're, didn't catch it the first time. So thank you, Brother T. And we did go deep today. We went a little deeper than, but
one or two turns down the rabbit hole, today. It's exciting, but all of these conversations are for those who are ready to engage with them. And if it causes you fear or causes you concern, let it go. It doesn't matter. When you're ready,
absolutely.
It'll be known to you when you're ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if people want to ask questions and dive deeper and contact you, they have the ability to do that, don't they?
Well, we post these on YouTube, and we post these on our Substack page, truethought.org, and you can also go to truemind.space. But they'll both take you to our Substack page. And on all of the podcasts, you can leave comments. What I would prefer, what I look at first, if you will, is the Substack page. I love the comments that are coming in there. I don't get a lot of them. I don't get a lot of questions. I don't get a lot of comments, but we know that you're watching. We know that you are tuning in to our podcast, and we're bringing up some pretty interesting and pretty abstract conversations sometimes. So we'd love to have the comments. We'd love to have the questions, but that's where you go. Just go to our truethought.org or truemind.space and go there. And if you want to support our work, register as a subscriber. It's a whopping $7 a month, but every little bit helps, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brother T. And thank all of you for joining us this week. And Brother T and I will see you next week on the Second Coming.
Yeah, here we will. God bless you. We'll see you soon.